Okay, so you know those really weird Godzilla movies? Godzilla 1, Planet of Monsters. Humanity ends up discovering that there's Godzillas living underneath the planet, and when Godzilla comes up and almost ends human civilization, they all travel into space to go to another planet to live on. But when they get to that planet, turns out it's not inhabitable, and then they end up feeding their old people to this planet by blowing them up so that they'll have more resources. They make the decision to return to Earth, where they fight, where they encounter. It's 20,000 years later. Turns out the entire planet now shares some characteristics with Godzilla. And there are smaller Godzilla-esque monsters. I say small, they're pretty big, but they're not like Godzilla-sized. Some smaller Godzilla-sized monsters that start attacking them, and the trees have become slightly Godzilla-esque, where they'll cut you if you touch them. Whole place is a shithole. And so the movie and humanity made an alliance with two other alien species. I'm going to try and say this right. The Basilado and the Zif. The Zif are religious zealots that try and brainwash you, and the Basilado are crazy people that want to turn into monsters. It doesn't really matter. Anyway. So then together they come up with an idea, and they're like, we're going to kill Godzilla. And then they kill Godzilla. And then the ground starts rumbling. And an even bigger Godzilla emerges from the ground. And they're like, well, shit. End of movie. Godzilla 2, City on the Edge of Battle. After everyone sees the bigger Godzilla, they're like, well, shit. What are we going to do about that? I mean, that's invincible. And that's when our main character, I haven't mentioned him before because he didn't matter in the first movie, meets a humanoid on Earth, but she's not a human. They think she evolved from Godzilla insects. Like insects with the characteristics of Godzilla, but she just turned into a human, which is another thing about this movie series, which is that there are 4 different alien species: humans, alien human insects, the Zif, and the Basilado. And the human insects look exactly like humans, except they have powdery tattoos that they secrete, and they have little moth antennae on their heads. The Zif look exactly like humans, but they're tall white guys. And the Basilado look exactly like humans, except they look exactly like humans, and they're all basically indistinguishable from each other. I know that there's a theory that most aliens spacefaring aliens would have to look at least relatively similar to humans, but that doesn't mean that most spacefaring aliens would look exactly like you. You can. I know they have to have thumbs and walk on land and shit, but you can make them blue or something. You know what I mean? Anyway. So, they find out that these tribe of insect people have weapons created by a nanometal, which was a Basilado weapon used to create what was called Mecha Godzilla. And so they follow the insect people, and then they find Mecha Godzilla, but surprise, Mecha Godzilla has been reproducing itself, because it's basically Greyyus. It's been reproducing itself and has created an entire city now called Mecha Godzilla City, which they are going to use as a weapon against Godzilla. However, when the humans find out that in order to properly use the Mecha Godzilla City as a weapon, they have to fuse with Mecha Godzilla, they're like, well, fuck that. We're not going to fuse with Mecha Godzilla. And so they keep up the bombardment of Godzilla, who apparently has the ability to generate thousands of degree temperatures just by being near it. And so, at the end, they end up having to destroy Mechagodzilla City because the Basilado go crazy and all try and fuse with this thing. And then Godzilla's like, "Roar! I'm Godzilla! Roar!" And then at the end of that movie, the main character's love interest dies. And we find out that the reason the other alien species have all went into space is because apparently at some point in a species' lifespan, it is going to create a giant fucking monster they can't beat. It's just going to make a kaiju. And the reason the Ziff are in space is because they made an even bigger monster than Godzilla. And it's called Ghidorah or something. I'm not a big Godzilla fan. That said, not a big Godzilla fan. You asked me if I'm going to watch that third movie next week. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to probably watch that third movie today. Anyway, I've been Sacrobolic. You're on Void of Hope, and that's what I watched this week. Bye-bye.